Hey guys, welcome to Any Last Words. I'm your host, Joe, and tonight I have a couple of guests. We'll get to that in a second. But first, I want to thank you guys for joining me. Had a little bit of a snafu with the Music Monday video tonight, so if you guys be patient and wait till the end of it, then I'm going to go ahead and post it like immediately right after the show so you guys can see it. But the links to all of their stuff is in the description for this video if you guys wanted to get a jump start on that before I'm able to post it. The band is called Pinetree Janitorial Services. Interesting name. But it's a trippy little video, so I encourage you guys to check it out as soon as I post it when we are done here tonight. And also, it's going to be the last giveaway for my random ass movie packs. And you guys have to wait to the end of the show for that as well. But I got 2 videos left. I accidentally tore the bag, but I've got a whole bunch of snacky candies and some puppy corns and some other things that you get that are just very random that Joe would send you. So congratulations to everybody before who won. I thank you guys so much for following, liking, and sharing on everything that I've got going on right now. More news on other things I have going on after the show. I want to get into my guests that I have for the evening. I have Josephine and Brad from Nightfall Pictures. Hey guys, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Hi, how are you doing, Joe?
Hi there.
Good, thank you. I thank you guys for being on. I really appreciate your guys' time.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Thank you. So we are here to talk about some films that you guys have. Since we were talking before the show about having a little bit more downtime and working on some stuff. So you guys got a bunch of films that you guys are wanting to promote and get out there while we got some downtime.
Yeah. One that we're working on right now that's in production, and then a few that came out recently on DVD and Blu-ray, and actually on VHS too. So.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
VHS for real?
Yeah. I'm a huge VHS fan collector. I started collecting movies on VHS and date myself that way. And I still do. And when I started directing and having movies released, they were coming out on VHS. They were in video stores, remember those? Hollywood Video, Blockbuster, and mom and pops and stuff like that. And so when we, did some more recent projects, like we did this movie called High 8, which was an anthology horror film. This was back in like 2013 that we shot the movie, and it was going to come out in 2014. We had a lot of directors like myself who started out in the VHS era. So we were like, when this movie comes out, we want it to not just be on DVD, Blu, and streaming. We want a VHS. We want a distributor who's going to understand that idea and not think we're crazy for wanting to put the movie out on tape. So one of the distributors, it was actually one of our first choices that we thought of who does these kind of things, is Wild Eye Releasing. And Wild Eye was putting out movies on VHS. In fact, they were doing it really before it got like more popular, like when it kind of got a bit trendier and everybody was doing it. Wild Eye was one of the first. So we, when we did the deal with Wild Eye, that was something we talked to them about and said, we really like High 8 to come out on VHS also. And they wanted to do that too, because it was in the spirit of the movie and like I said, the filmmakers involved, and also just the spirit of the whole project.
Yeah, it was more like a retro style project. Some filmmakers went back to their roots and actually shot on High 8. We didn't, because we didn't have a, great working High 8 camera, but we still shot on like mini DV.
Most people shot on mini DV.
Yeah. But, we wanted to give, the viewers that retro style feel of like kind of do it yourself with your friends movie. Like, like everybody started like that. So that was kind of what we're going for look wise and just story, filmmaking and everything. So then we're like, because there are more and more fans nowadays collecting VHS tapes and all that, we thought it would be kind of fun to do that and have cool artwork created just for VHS.
This is the tape right here, the High 8 tape.
Oh, That is so cool. I love that idea. That is
They did a
awesome.
whole, you know.
Yeah.
Actually, it
Oh,
comes
I
with-
remember when you'd get the little coupon insert
Oh, yeah.
things or
Well,
the ads in them.
he made
He made
stickers.
cool stickers.
Yeah, he made
too.
like, because we had when this
Oh.
movie. The thing with this movie is it had a real successful like festival run. You know, it was a festival movie before it was distributed, and so we had different posters made up for it. You know, different artwork, and when Rob at Wild Eye put the movie out, it was his idea actually to do those stickers, and he's like, we've got all these cool posters, but we can only have one poster, for the VHS itself. So let's make these little like kind of like almost like trading card type things and put them in there.
So
it's
the
just a nice extra.
collectors can get something more than just the tape, you know.
Yeah.
So
That's
it's
so
more
cool.
fun.
But it was really fun, and that kind of, I think in a lot of ways that was almost like more exciting to a lot of people to get a VHS of High 8 than, and I still hear from people all the time, do you have any VHS left? Are there any
Of
VHS
course,
left
the
of High
movie
8?
Is on streaming too.
They
We
don't
are, pretty much in tune with what's going on. It's on Blu-ray, it's on, DVD, but, we thought it would be fun to also have the retro format. And we kept going with that for our next movie,
Yeah.
High Def. We had another VHS, and we had our movie Plaguers. That's a bit old. We had like a 10-year anniversary last year. So it came out in December on Blu-ray. Well, this year we did also a VHS. So
we've had 3 movies released on VHS since 2014.
Yeah, so we're
So
not
cool
That's
though.
pretty good considering that they stopped making VHS in
we're not
2004.
going backwards.
2005.
We're adding to the fun.
Right.
Right?
We have more releases because what's kind of fun this year. Like in May, I think the VHS of Plaguers came out.
Yeah.
And that was fun because you have to go through this time period and all that. So having a release, it's more exciting and fun for us and for everybody, just to kind of rise your spirits a little bit and also give something to the fan. It's a limited edition.
See, like just to give you a comparison, you probably remember this. Is like, you go in the video store and you had tapes like this, like the regular size ones, right? But then you had those big
Puffy pack ones.
those big ones, and horror movies a lot of times were in these, like the, Dr. Butcher MD or, Zombie or something like that. And so
And it was
Plaguers
fun because they had a different artwork. Like this was like our first artwork, like for the festivals before it had any distributions over 10 years ago. So we're like, let's use this because it was a painting made for the movie. And it's retro and it's cool and it really shows the monster from the
see if you can see,
movie.
you get it closer
And
in.
all
Get it
that.
closer
I
in.
usually have to look down at this one to see it
Yeah,
better.
check this out. Yeah, so you see the
So
creature.
we did
the
that.
girl,
That's cool.
Like for example, the anniversary Blu-ray has a different artwork that's created for the
Ah.
Blu-ray, which
Yeah.
also has a monster and all that, but it's more, it's different style. So for us, it's fun to have different releases with different artwork.
We're
and
covering all the
that.
media here.
Yeah, and it's fun for us because we do care about the fans. We're not just making movies for ourselves here.
I just think
Right.
it's just because for me, there was always a sense of, because I've been directing for about 20 years now. And there was always a sense of the movie's really finished when you see it on the shelf in the store. It's not finished when you walk off the set and, it's not finished when the post-production's done. It's not finished when you get distribution. It's finished when you walk into Hollywood Video or some store and see your movie on the shelf. And that's when it's really finished. That's when it's real. And so there's that sense of like a tactile experience of holding the tape in your hand. And for me as a filmmaker, but also as a fan and a collector, because that's just how movies were presented back in the day. They still are, but not as much nowadays. So this kind of thing means something to
Us and
to
other
us,
people.
and yeah, so that's the thing. So we like it, but other people like it. It's not just we're not the only ones that like it, but yeah, so it's fun. It's just a fun another way of like having the movie out there too. So we're they're like limited editions too, like these, like the other one we're talking about. I'll show you this one, kind of getting close. This one, High Death, with a girl's head splitting open with 5 things coming out of there. That one, like this one and Plaguers are like very, very limited editions. So like there's a limit. I think there's like 50 units of each one or something. They're not. So
Oh, wow.
when they're gone, they're gone. and you know, so that kind of gives them value as well. People jump on that, so you know.
Absolutely. Is this something you think that you're going to keep trending with the other films that you may have coming out in the future?
Well, yeah, like the movie we have in production right now, production / post-production, is called High Fear. And that's the third film. So you've got High 8, High Death, and then High Fear. That one will be released on VHS. Yeah, that's because for sure it has to happen.
Because of previous ones, you know, have.
But you want that on the shelf, so you know, if you've got the other two on the shelf.
It's a trilogy. You have to have them lined up like that, right?
It's a trilogy. It's an OCD thing. You know, you got to have it. You know, so we would definitely want to do that. And look, we might do more in the future too, because it's funny because this whole thing sort of started like a while even before High 8. I had an older film of mine, something I did in 1995. That was shot on High 8 when I was in college, that got a limited release on VHS, and that sold out in like 8 hours. I mean, literally, it was sold out, in 8 hours, and that was another VHS. So that was one of those things where I was like, wow, you know, like people are really into these, you know, they're really into this, and so like I've got older things too that some of which have never been released at all, that I directed that might come out in the future. We're planning that, and those I think I'll do VHS for those too, because it's just appropriate to it. Not every movie's meant for a VHS release. Not every movie's meant for a retro VHS release. You know what I mean? But I think certain kinds of films, you know, certain indie horror films, they fit that very well. You know, and more than any other type of movie, if you think about it. Because you don't have like people collecting VHS of drama, like new drama, new comedies. Like, give me that Sandra Bullock movie on VHS. Like, no, it's okay. You know, but if it's a horror movie, that's like, you know, it's just kind of a no-brainer.
And the artwork is important too, and the huge packaging and everything.
Yeah, that's half the fun is, you know, the great artwork, and then you see the movie and you're like, oh man. I mean, like, it's actually funny. Like with Plaguers, like one of the things people said in reviews for Plaguers were, these creatures are actually in the movie. And I'm like, yeah, in the movie, that's the idea. But you know how many movies there are out there with a creature on the cover that's not in the film or something, or
it's a bit of cheating with the
So
artwork.
we wanted to, we were, you know, we knew that creature was in the movie, and when the distributor showed us the artwork and said, here's what your Plaguers Blu-ray
Do you like it? Yeah.
Well, of course we like it, because it's not cheating people. It's really, you know, they are gonna
see it in the movie.
They're gonna see that monster in the movie. So yeah.
Nice. Do you guys mind if I show the trailer for High 8?
Not at all. Go for it.
I haven't seen it in a while either.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to pull us out, and then I'm going to go ahead and show that trailer, and then we're going to come right back.
Great.
So, guys, this is the trailer for High 8, the movie that we've been talking about. So, check it out.
We must warn you, what you are about to see is quite graphic.
Action!
Okay, that was the trailer for High 8. Okay, it popped back up on the screen. I was like, please don't be frozen again.
Anybody shocked? Did we need to do that? Because that's what we're going for here.
Okay, so that was the trailer for High 8. You said it was part of an anthology?
Yeah,
and they're all on VHS.
Yeah. I mean, it was the first one. I mean, we didn't know it was going to be a trilogy when we made it. Like, you know, we just made the movie like almost for fun. you know, because I was talking to this other director who's one of the other directors, 8 directors in High 8, you know. I was talking to one of the other filmmakers before we ever did the thing, and we're talking about the state of the business and how tough it was, and things have changed, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, remember when this used to be fun? And that comment kind of stuck with me. And I think what he meant by that is, remember what this used to be like before we were professionals, you know, when we were teenagers or in college or whatever age, and we were just making movies with our friends for fun. We weren't trying to make money off of it or trying to get to the next stepping stone or whatever. So anyway, that was sort of one of the guiding principles of Height, was let's just have fun. Everybody involved we just basically said, if you want to be in this, we just need a 10-minute segment. Horror, it doesn't, whatever kind of horror you want. We're not telling you what kind of horror movie to make, but just do something you want to do, something you think would be cool. And we'll figure it out, you know, we'll put it all together and we'll finish it. But it was really just done more for fun. And nobody was worried about like how much this was going to make or anything like that. We really weren't. It was not a commercial project. It was more of a fun, kind of almost experimental project.
Yeah, I mean, we had just some rules. We call them like simple rules of High 8, just literally telling people you can use visual effects, just, you know, a few lights, just a simple camera, a few people, only practical effects. It was just more about creative freedom and just go and do something without thinking too much, but use your professional experience and then just go and make something fun. And then we'll just, you know, put it together here at Nightfall in LA and just, you know, do that. But all the other 7 directors were located in different parts of United States. So of course, that's kind of a bit of a challenge to get everything from everybody and, you know, different technical issues and all that. But that's what we wanted to do. But we didn't know how the movie would end up, you know, being received. And we're just doing it for fun because we're kind of all getting tired of dealing with investors or people telling you, because, you know, what to do, how to do, who you put in your movie, wait for, you know, big budgets for a long time. We're like, let's just get what we have, a camera, and just go out somewhere and just make something and stop waiting around, because this is what we love to do. We like to make movies. So we're kind of tired of waiting for a green light. We're independent filmmakers, so we don't like that. We just want to just go and do what we feel like doing. So that's kind of the idea behind the movie. But we actually got a lot of nice support because
we got a lot. I mean, like, I knew we were onto something when I'm sure you're familiar with the VHS movies, you know, the VHS series. And when, I mean, we launched a Facebook page for High 8, which was really just launched more just to kind of let almost like more like people in the community know about it. We weren't trying to do anything big with it. And like the day I launched it, or the day after I launched it, Yahoo Movies ran this story that was, the title of the article was, "Watch out VHS, there's a new format in town." And so we're like, okay, so we're you know,
now we have to make the movie.
Now we have to make it and make it good. And, you know, a lot of people don't necessarily know what High 8 is in some cases. I mean, it's a video format that's like a little cartridge that, you know, was sort of like mini DV, but before mini DV. That's basically what it was. It was better than VHS quality, but it was not as good as like digital stuff that came later. And so we just kind of.
Also, the title has a double meaning because it's Horror Independent 8, because we have 8 directors who all, you know, participated with a segment. So we're trying to create a few meanings here with the title. But, you know, because the movie caught on, you know, with reviewers and on the independent festival scene and all that, we're like, oh, let's make a sequel. So we did High Def, which is, you know, this time around, we graduated to HD, so everybody worked in HD with 5 directors, longer formats, and a female director, because I wanted to have a female director. There are not so many in the independent horror scene, so we're kind of struggling to find somebody who, you know.
Somebody we could trust, too.
Yeah.
Because, you know, it wasn't just about whatever, like, I mean, it was about their abilities or their track record, but it was also about, like, did we feel like we could trust them? And actually, who we ended up getting, Amanda Payton, to direct a segment for High Death, was somebody we really did trust, because she produced a lot of things. And we knew her, and we knew she was responsible and serious, and she's a big fan, too, and has something to contribute. And she made some films before,
She made shorts before,
she directed. So, you know, we just we felt very good with her, and actually what she did was really cool. In fact, what her segment, and going back to the whole video store thing and all that, her segment is called Night Drop, and it's like literally a guy working in a video store late at night, and he gets a DVD from hell. That's sort of like this DVD with all these like crazy occult weird things on it, and then it gets worse from there. But it's that spookiness atmosphere. It's that spooky atmosphere of being in the store alone, like you have to close the store, which a lot of people have probably experienced. I worked in a video store when I was a teenager, and like I can remember like having to close the store, be the only one there with the manager, like late at night, and it was kind of spooky, you know. It was just big, and there's all those racks, and it's just like there's nobody in there, and it's dark, and so she kind of like took that atmosphere and captured that really well, and with a sense of humor, and just did a real nice job with it. So yeah, we, you know, that was the second one. And then once you've made 2, then you have friends who start telling you, well, you have to make 3. Like, you know, I got a friend who said, you know, you have to make another one now. And I said, I do.
Because we're just exhausted. We just had High Def last year coming out. So we're like, okay, can we use a break? And we have this friend from Germany visiting us, and we're just trying to show him around in town. And that's what he comes up with. You need to make the 3rd one. Like,
that's what he left me with. He's like, great seeing you guys. I'm going back to Germany now. And you know, you're going to have to make a 3rd movie. And I was like, okay, thanks, Marcus. but you know, but then the more you think about it, and then you start to talk to some of the other directors, because we've had some directors on
like
these
Todd
films.
Sheets,
Tim Ritter. Yeah, we've had certain directors
from the beginning.
Right. So they wanted to do it too, and I'm like, well, if they want to do it, then I'm.
We don't want to stop them.
I want
sure.
to do it.
It'd be fun to just have a trilogy.
Yeah. So I'm glad we did it, and we did longer segments for the 3rd. We're talking about the movie we're filming right now. We're in production right now. High Fear. We you know, said, well, we'll do longer segments this time. You're trying to do something a little more ambitious each time.
And different.
I mean, everybody did, not just us, but everybody. So it was involved. So it's been this has been a real interesting experience, like as a producer too, because we have to, I mean, for me, I'm not just a director on these, I'm also a producer, you know? So it's like, sometimes you don't really want to be in that position. You rather just be like the director guy who's just talking to other directors about film and stuff. But in this case, we have to be more like, well, here's when we need it by, here's when it's, you know, needs to be finished by. And, you know, you have to do some of those kind of things. You kind of have to put that hat on, but it's okay.
Yeah, we have 4 directors this time around. We have Brad, Tim Ritter, Todd Sheets, and Anthony Catanese. And we have 3 segments that are shot. Tony Catanese needs to shoot his, but you know, this pandemic happened. So, you know, it's kind of, when he was ready to go, he had to stop. So we'll see. Maybe he'll be able to shoot by the end of the year. And we have to shoot a wraparound here in LA. So we also hope to shoot that by the end of the year.
I mean, we would have, if we were on schedule, let's say, we would have had already probably shot the wraparound by now.
Oh, wow.
We would have done it, because it's not a complicated shoot. I mean, it's a downtown LA shoot, but it's real, like kind of like minimal, you know,
just a few actors, and
we could have done it in a few days. Cause like when we did, talking about the previous film High Death, when we did that, we shot all over Hollywood. We shot on Hollywood Boulevard. We shot in Bronson Cave, which you've seen in all these movies. You're probably familiar with that. It's like, it's in so many horror films. Like pretty much anytime you see a cave in a movie and there's like a creature in the cave, it's probably Bronson Cave. I mean, it's in the original Invasion of the Body Snatchers. It's in Army of Darkness. It's in a lot of things. Yeah, it's been in movies since movies have been made, literally.
In LA, yeah. It's historic. It's cool. It's a cool location.
Very
Plus,
cool.
Outside you see the Hollywood sign, and we needed that too. So we did interior caves, but also outside too. So that was fun.
So we shot, you know, we're shooting all over town.
Doing like zombie makeup on people, you know, we had like, you know, effects people set up, and, you know, outside near the Hollywood sign, literally putting zombie makeup on people. So that's
just another day. Well, and meanwhile, there's a guy walking through the cave with a guitar, you know, just playing guitar, you know, because it's
find that guy.
So we're like, when can he stop so we can, you know,
and somebody else is shooting a webisode or something over in the corner, you know, and it's always like this kind of live and let live kind of environment where it's like, I'm doing my thing over here, they're doing their thing over there. As long as nobody's like infringing on anyone, then we're all good, you know?
Right.
So that's just another day at Bronson Cave. But that was different because, you know, this was, you know, a while back, and now it's harder to go outside and shoot stuff, and especially like run and gun kind of shooting. So we're we are kind of putting the wraparound on not, I mean, on hold, but I mean, it's going to happen. I think it's just going to happen in the fall. I'm just hoping things will get better and you know,
we'll have less
stabilized.
cases and be safer, so we can just, you know, shoot in a few days and put in the can. But right now, we were working on our segment because we shot it luckily last September, and we're working on visual effects, and those take forever on a low budget movie. So that is kind of keeping us busy for a few months now.
Yeah. I hadn't done any visual effects related stuff since Plaguers, talking about the sci-fi horror film. And I kind of stayed away from it after that because I was like, okay, I'm ready to go back to like, you know, physical effects, prosthetics and blood pumps and tubes and that kind of thing.
Nice.
And we did for a while. And that's like my background. Like when I first moved here, I was working on films, you know, like effects related stuff, basically. I was in the special effects unit on like some of Brian Yuzna's films and stuff like that. And so I love that stuff. And I know a lot of those guys, but with this latest segment we did called Day Out of Days, we wanted to do something like apocalyptic, and
unfortunately we're right to some of the things we wrote in the
Yeah.
script. Like during this time period, we're like, oh no, like at some point we have a character just eating pasta for breakfast, and we're like, that's all it is. And we're like, we actually wrote this, and nowadays
there's no food.
There's no food. It was even like a pasta shortage in grocery stores. So we're like, we're not trying to do that. We're just trying to make a movie
There's
here.
no toilet paper references in the film though. But it you know, it's like a kind of it's definitely an alien sci-fi themed kind of thing, but with a little bit different kind of tone to it. But it required a lot of visual effects, and we knew it was going to be like that. And
we knew it would take a while.
So
realistically,
you know, that's just like when you make a movie like that, there's really like almost like I don't say two shoots, but it's like two periods where you shoot the actual movie and then you do the visual effects, which are just like, that's a whole nother, like, and a lot of this stuff was created from the ground up. Like, it's not like we got a light on the set that's blinking and we're adding something to it. It's like, this thing has to be built from nothing. So that, which is also cool as a filmmaker because it's creative, because you're going to do something you haven't seen before, but it also takes longer to do that. We have a great visual effects guy, Adam Lima, who's doing this stuff we worked with before. And that's one of the reasons why we're happy to have him, because we knew that
we can trust him.
We could trust him and go on the journey with us with it. But it's just it is a long process. But right now, you know what?
What's the rush?
We'd be doing it anyway. I mean, we'd be doing these visual effects whether there was a pandemic or not.
We're just hoping to shoot something while the visual effects are done, so we can kind of balance that out. But, you know, we always find things to do anyways. And we started an Instagram page since May, and that's how we met you. So we're, you know, trying to catch up with social media and redo our website and do other things that, you know, we pushed for years because we're busy shooting. So that's what we're doing.
So you guys are together and you make movies together. Did you guys meet doing movies, or did you guys know each other prior and just kind of wanted to jump in and do this? I'm just kind of interested in this right now. I'm sorry, it's sticking in my head because I'm fascinated with that.
It's a very long story. Let's say it happened in summer 97.
In summer 1997. Have you heard of Full Moon Films, Full Moon Productions, like the Puppet Master movie and stuff like that?
I want to say I have.
Okay. Well, anyway, I was working for Full Moon in 97, and they were doing a lot of horror films. I had just moved to LA, like literally just graduated film school. And so long story short, I got a job working on a Full Moon movie in Romania. They were doing a lot of movies in Romania because they had great rates over there. They had great deals, and they had an entire studio they'd built over there. They were making these films like a factory, almost like one after another. So I went over there in the summer of 97 to work on this movie called Phantom Town, which is like a kid's Western horror film, if that makes any sense.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a real blend. It was a real blend of genres, and
with zombies.
Kind of like how kids dress. It's just a blend of different things.
Yeah, pull things together, you know, and see what sticks, you know. And so I was over there, and Josephine was working on the movie too.
Yeah, I'm from Romania, and I was in film school, and that was my summer internship. And I wanted to work on a set, and that's how I met Brad. So and we clicked fast because we started to talk about movies and directors and we're geeking out. And sometimes, instead of doing your job, you're kind of chatting to each other kind of too much. That's not what we're doing.
She thought I would be fired after a while.
Because we're talking too much together. I was scared, but I'm like, they, kind of couldn't fire him and send him back. That would be kind of an expense.
It would be a way. They literally would have lost money that way if they fired me. So they were just cheaper to keep me around. But we had a lot of fun on that, and we just kept in touch. And
we had a long distance relationship for a few years. Brad came to see me, and then we got married in the end of 2000. And then I moved here, and we worked separately for a while after I moved to LA. We couldn't work together immediately. But then in 2004, we kind of decided it's time for us to finally work together. It's something we always wanted to do. We're always talking about script ideas and what we wanted to make. And he kind of got fed up with an abusive producer he was working with for years. And I worked in different independent productions here in LA that frankly, I learned a lot. So on different movies, especially independent horror movies. And we're like, okay, let's just join forces between, each other's experiences and, make our first movie.
Yeah.
Which we did in 2005.
We did. Yeah, our first movie was in 2005. We did a movie called Within the Woods, which was originally called Camp Blood 3. And I had done a couple of, I directed the first two Camp Blood movies, which were these slasher films, as you could probably guess, with a clown, like a guy in a clown mask killing people in the woods. And they were like real low budget movies, but they caught on. Like they were very popular. They were sold all over the world and UK, everywhere. People are fans of these movies. And so, I had basically approached the rights owners, and said, what do you guys think about making another one of these? It had been a few years since I'd done anything with them, but they were still in business and they were interested in doing it, and so that was the deal. We did Camp Blood 3. They trusted us. And so we put it together. And our goal with that movie, which I think we succeeded, was to actually put the money on the screen. Because on the previous two Camp Bloods, one of the frustrating things about those films for me, especially because, Josephine wasn't even here at the time, was that the money, I kind of knew what the budgets were, and the money was not going on the screen. The money was going into the producer's pocket, ridiculous amounts of money based on what we had to do, we had to accomplish. So the fact that those films even exist is a minor miracle on some level. But anyway, we said, let's do Camp Blood. When we do our film, we'll put the money on the screen.
And people always say, oh, you on the third one, you had so much more money. And I'm like, no, we had the same amount. And we paid people, we paid ourselves, but we just put it on the screen and we work really hard to add production value to the screen because I care a lot and we prepared it really well. And we had other collaborators and a co-producer and other people who contributed and we just put it out there. It's just sometimes it's money that, you don't put in your pocket, but it's also hard work because, you have to find solutions to
I'll tell you one. I'll just tell you one thing about that movie, talking about challenges. The very first day of the shoot, and I had directed, I don't know, let's just say at least 10 movies by that point. I had some fair amount of experience doing low budget films. The first day of the shoot, the location, which we'd been to before, there had been this incredible rain the night before. So much rain that it created a river. There was like a river running through, basically running across the line that we needed to get through to get to the woods.
It was kind of like a river that formed between the parking lot and the woods.
So it was like, I'd put this thing about 100 feet wide or something. It was just going and we're like, we got to get across this. We can't shoot unless we go across this river. But we can't go through it. Like it was deep too. It was probably about, not up to your waist, but like up to your knees at least. And it was cold water. So I'm like, I can't ask all these people to go through cold water. It's going to be miserable. We get to the other side. Who knows when we're going to get anything done. So basically.
It was a nightmare. It's like, that's your first day of shoot, 6 a.m. in the morning. You prepared
I was wondering if people are just going to quit.
For a long time. Away. And this is what happens, and you're like, everybody's going to quit on us,
But there was a construction yard like right over there that had a bunch of pylons and or pallets, and they I went to them, we said, can we please have some of those, like borrow some or whatever? And they had a ton of them. And they're like, sure, you can have some, but you have to come get them. It's your problem, you know? And some of the people on the crew like got out like gloves. And I mean, these are people showing up the first day. They don't know you. You never met them before. I mean, they're just like coming to help you for free in some cases. And they put on gloves and everybody got involved. And we built a bridge. Across the river. And weighted it down with stones so the pallets wouldn't float away on this because these were like almost like rapids going. Yeah, exactly. And
oh my gosh,
we weighted them down with stones so that everyone could like cross the bridge.
And we can carry equipment over.
Yeah,
too.
Of course that took it. And we're going back and forth too because there was food that was coming later, pizzas, whatever. Anyway, so like that was the first thing we did on Within the Woods. We built a bridge to cross a river. And so, but at the same time, you get that, and you're like, you know what? I don't think anything else is gonna like compare to this. Yeah, I think I'm ready. Anything as bad as this.
And you know what's weird? Everybody was so prepared that day
and cheerful about it too,
and nice that we finished the shoot on time, on schedule. We not behind.
Yeah, probably took us about a half hour to build that bridge. Yeah. Let's say, and we still came out.
We thought it's gonna be a disaster day. Even get to shoot something that day, but it actually wasn't. It was.
But when we walked back through to get to our cars at the end, all the pallets had flown. They had all floated away. All the rocks.
I was walking.
Everybody was going through, and I remember.
But our DP had a good attitude. He's like, I don't care if I have to like get wet and drive naked back to Santa Monica. I don't care.
So that was the first day of that, and I mean, and there were some other tough times on that movie too, but it was. Overall, a very fun experience. There were a lot of fun people working on it in front of the camera, behind the camera. I enjoyed making it. So it was a good start for us, and it came out well, and we delivered it on time. Because the film had to be, they were telling you more or less when they wanted to release it before you even start shooting.
So that's not stressful or anything.
So you're like, okay, so it's supposed to come out in September of 2005,
And we're shooting it in March. So you had to finish it.
Yeah. So, but then the shoots are always really short on these films. But then sometimes the post is what takes the longest time for various reasons, usually budgetary. But we did deliver on time. We delivered that on time, and then they liked it so much that they asked us to do another one that same year. At the end of the year, we did this movie called Mutation, which was a kickboxing horror sci-fi movie. I see you look. I
like horror sci-fi, so I'll watch it.
It's like you have to understand at the beginning of the film, they said we have these two guys, they're professional kickboxers, award-winning, kickboxers, and they want to be in a movie. They want to put, money into a movie, and they want to star in it, or at least be in it. So that was how the film was starting. So, you have to kind of accommodate that. So anyway, I came up with a storyline that used both of them. We got some fight scenes in there, like a big fight at the beginning, big fight at the end. But then I kind of interwove them into a story that was...
And you have to have decent actors on top of that to kind of balance that out.
It had other things going on.
These guys are good fighters, but acting-wise...
Right. Well, one guy didn't have to say anything. He had no dialogue. Think of your average Van Damme movie or, Dolph Lundgren or whatever. And I love those guys, but, you don't want to give them too many lines. So, it was that. But I was kind of having fun with that because I just mentioned those too. Well, I grew up watching those films. I grew up watching that, action stuff, Chuck Norris films and stuff like that. So it's kind of fun for me. And I directed all kinds of stuff at that point, but I'd never directed something with any professional martial arts or kickboxing.
They're cool guys too.
And they were super nice people, and that really made it.
No
honestly,
egos.
They just came down for like a long weekend. We filmed everything with them in one weekend, and then we went on the following week to shoot the rest of the material that was with all the other actors. So
we actually had Katie Thurston.
Yeah, you've seen
Paranormal Activity.
Paranormal Activity, right? Okay, Katie Featherston, who's like the girl in Paranormal Activity. It's Micah and Katie. Well, she had done only one other film. I don't know. She hadn't done it. Had she done Paranormal Activity when we did Mutation?
I'm trying to remember.
Maybe she'd been in it, but it hadn't been released yet because that movie took a while to come out. Anyway, it took a while. They reshot the ending. Anyway, so Katie had done, I think that was her only film she had done was Paranormal Activity, which didn't mean anything back then. And we hired her on the strength of her audition, and we, filmed. Had a nice time shooting with her. She has a supporting role. She's the first girl you see in the movie, actually. She gets rescued. by one of the kickboxers. And then, you know, like literally a couple of years later, and then Mutation came out in 2006. It came out on DVD in 2006. And then like the next year, Paranormal Activity came out. Well, when that happened, all the, you know, Entertainment Weekly, all the major news outlets were going, who's this Katie Featherston? Never heard of her. What's she done? Well, she's been in this movie called Mutation. and so then the next thing you know, every like major newspaper had stuff about Mutation in it because they were all covering Paranormal Activity because it's huge hit, right? Huge success that came out of nowhere, like Blair Witch, one of these type of films. And the only thing they had to write about with Katie was Mutation. So
you're like, we made it.
So she ended up being in all of them after that, and so it was a fun. It's a fun little anecdote, and you know, it's not the first time I've had something like that happen, but it was one of the first times, and it was just kind of cool to see that happen for her, you know, and you know, we were obviously onto something with Mutation.
Yeah, sometimes you're like, hey, my casting instincts aren't that
right?
No,
I think our casting instincts are pretty good. So that was Mutation, and then we did Plaguers the following year, which was, you know, that's a whole nother subject. You know, you could probably write a book about that one, but
so we do.
So those
work
were our
together.
first couple of films, and
we're still married too,
right? Somehow.
And that's a great story. That really is. I love that. I really do, because that's something you think you would only hear in a movie. Is that you guys are from two different parts of the world, but you both are so into movies, and you both just land at this set and you hit it off, and then you kind of separate. There's that dramatic separation.
Yeah.
You guys are apart from one another, but you're longing for one another. You try to keep contact.
We wrote letters. We still have the letters.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah.
We're so old-fashioned.
That's an awesome story.
VHS letters. All these tangible things. I mean, I actually got an email account because of her. I mean, like for years, I didn't have to. It used to be, that's how it used to be. You didn't have to have any of that stuff to work and to socialize. And
but then we had the wedding.
Then she said, I need to get an email account because we're putting all this stuff. We need to know how much, you know, plates are going to be at the wedding dinner, how many guests are coming, and how much fish
I
to
need
buy.
to organize something, you know, so I need some, you know, straight answers fast.
So I did get an email account at that point. So, against my, you know, grudgingly, but
they don't want this, dude. They don't know what this does.
Yeah, dumb things, you know.
Making phone noises at me.
I think my first email, that was an Earthlink account. That gives you an idea how long ago that was. But
like the AOL discs you get in the mail.
The discs. Yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah, people sometimes ask us how we do it because they think like we're fighting all the time or something, and it's like, no, we don't fight all the time. Doesn't mean we agree about everything. That's like, you know, no, it's the same personal life or professional. It's not like we agree. We're not like brainwashed here. You know, everything I tell him, he says yes, or everything he tells me. But you know, so you learn how to communicate. You know, we're still earlier on when we first start working, and it's the same with the personal life. You're like more like, we're both kind of hot-blooded people anyways and passionate about what we're doing, so there are more sparkles. But in time you kind of realize you need to communicate more and think more about the situation, and sometimes sleep on it, don't take any, you know, decisions yet. And sometimes it's just about discussing, and we both want the best for the movie. It's just sometimes we have different approaches and different opinions about how things need to get done.
Yeah,
but
I remember Mutation was like we're talking about Mutation again. I remember when I think the first like treatment I wrote for that, which was just like the outline, you know, before you write the script. I think I had like way more going on in it.
He had like too many characters. I'm like, we can't pull this off on the budget. You're
well,
crazy.
I had this movie in my head, this Chuck Norris movie called Silent Rage that I was a fan of. And I probably just had this idea that I was going to make Silent Rage. Like I was going to make a Chuck Norris film that, you know, was probably made for, you know, like 5 to 10 million back then. And it's like, no, you don't have that. You don't have that.
As much as I, you know, try to accept all the challenges and push every penny and all that, but you know, sometimes there are limitations we need to accept.
Yeah, I try to push every movie a little bit beyond what what the resources are, because I feel like if you don't do that, there's no point.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Plaguers is definitely a much bigger film that's been crammed into the budget that we had.
Even if it was a bigger budget.
If it was a bigger budget, it was still like, but then exponentially from there, it doesn't matter because like it's still a, let's say a $10 million movie, like crammed into a $1 million, or maybe more than 10 million, really. The industry terms of Plaguers would be like, if you showed that script to the general industry people,
it would be millions of dollars.
Millions and millions.
Under $1 million.
And one of the ways we did it was the location was, some of the sets were already standing. Like we had these access to these sci-fi spaceship sets that look like something from Alien or something like that.
Oh.
That's how Plaguers started, to get into that a little bit. I mean,
he wrote the story around the sets.
Yeah.
But also we knew we'd be building a few other sets, looking similar to, what there was already on the stage. And that's how we shot, like a scout that we shot and put like together for investors a package with a script and that scout, kind of like a video.
That place had everything. I mean, and they do still have everything. They're still in business. They had
green screen.
large spaceship sets, like corridors and cockpits and flight decks. They had a green screen stage you could drive trucks around it. I mean, it was a huge space.
What?
They use it for commercials and all kinds of stuff.
It
And
was like a playground.
it was like a playground, and they had equipment
and
there.
Equipment, and different rooms and makeup room and office rooms. So everything was there.
All under one roof. Which actually, honestly, wasn't too different than the place where we first met. I mean, when we first in the Castel film in Romania was they had a full Western town. They had, I think, 2 or 3 large stages that were just equipped for anything you needed. They had a prop department. It was like a little studio essentially, not as big as Paramount, but it was the same idea. It had all the same stuff that you'd have. So this was kind of like that too. It was like a one-stop shopping kind of an operation, and I had never done a movie like that before. Once again, never made a sci-fi. Usually you don't get to make movies like that unless there's some money invested, substantial amount of money. So it was just a real cool opportunity to be able to do something like that. Of course, it was on some little kind of crazy,
Once again, I first read the script, I'm like, he's crazy,
But we did all this. We did everything. We didn't change it though. I mean, we actually did everything.
I made it happen. I figured ways to make it happen. And the only disagreement I remember having was about the sound for some reason, like post-production sound, like we visited some studio and Brad was married to them for some reason, even if they're charging a lot of money. That was my whole post-production budget. They were charging just for sound. I'm like, no way. And I can't say I like the people working there, like chemistry-wise. I don't think we gelled that much. So I'm like, give me time to find some other people, other studios, in LA. I'll find somebody else. And Brad somehow was very determined to work with them. And I'm like, I don't have the money. So
I didn't love that guy. But
it's like, go back to the investors and ask for more money. I'm like, no way I'm doing that, because that's going to make me look bad. So let me just give me some time to, find other places, visit other. Sometimes that's what happens in low budget. You have to put more work. Instead of spending money, you have to roll up your sleeves and interview more people, put more time into it. So, that's what happened. We visited more studios till we found the right place for the budget that we had.
We saw some real weird operations too during that.
But it's kind of funny.
We still talk about that. We drive through Hollywood and we're like, remember that guy over there?
Because you go to like sometimes of cool buildings.
Home studios and stuff that are just in funky old building, which is kind of cool in a way, I mean,
it might be appropriate for your project, but the place they're at, it's like, man, that would be cool to live in. It's like a cool old Hollywood 40s building, so
it was. No, I remember that too. I think what happened with that was, number one, I was probably just tired of the whole process after finishing the shoot, and just like, let's just go to the next step. And I don't want to, whatever. I don't want to meet with people now or audition people now or whatever. And the other thing was, I knew who the guy was, and I knew he had done some things with people I'd worked with. But as she said, not a very nice person, not a very pleasant person, probably a better way of putting it. And he was. I see, the part I forget is that he wanted a lot of money. I'd forgotten.
I don't.
I remember his personality. I don't remember how much he asked for, and I just wanted to get it going. But actually, what's funny is the person that we ended up getting, who neither of us knew, he was actually doing a lot of bigger things himself. I mean, he was a very professional guy who had a home studio once again, but it was just it was just a slicker, more well-maintained home studio.
And he was working with a bigger
and he's a nicer
studio,
guy.
to a nicer guy, more fun.
Personality is very important in this business.
It is.
In any business, really. But I mean,
But more in
the
movies because you're
you
like,
spend a lot of time with these
Yeah.
people, a lot. Like, and you hear this, directors will say this all the time, and it's true. You know, when you're editing, you're like living with that person. You know, when you're, and the sound is the same. In fact, on Plaguers, it was even more like that because the sound, we took a year on the sound for Plaguers.
because you build everything from scratch. Because when you
Everything had to be built
record
from
it,
scratch.
it's fine, but you just record dialogue, while all the sounds of the actual creatures or spaceships or everything.
Ambiances in the ship, even. I mean,
Yeah.
the first thing we did was lay in ambiances because the ship had like, the way I wrote it, and we had an awesome production designer on this movie, Scott Inge, who's gone on to do some very big films. I mean, he just did a movie for Lionsgate with Vince Vaughn. You know, we had two stories. Like, if you think of Titanic, you know how they had like the upper deck, then they had the boiler room down there where like the steerage, as they called it, or whatever. I was sort of modeling it after that and thinking, okay, you know, the upper deck will be, because we're using the same sets, keep in mind. This is sort of a Roger Corman kind of thing. We're using the same sets, but we dressed them differently and we lit them differently. And we tried to shoot them differently. So you think you're in a different part, but you're on the same set. So one of the things I try to do, one of the tricks I decided was the upper deck's going to be blue and cold and gray, and we're going to put paneling over everything and make it as sleek and smooth as possible. When we're in the lower part, it'll be like you're in the boiler room. If, like, imagine Nightmare on Elm Street boiler room. It's like, which we've actually been in, by the way, on another
We
film.
worked on a movie,
We
yeah.
actually
It was shot there.
been in Freddy's boiler room. Orange, hot, everything's exposed. There's steam coming out of things. That's what we did. So, you know, but when we got into post, all that stuff had to be also worked on in terms of a sound perspective. So you had to know as a viewer, when we're upstairs, it was quieter, like you'd be in an office or something. Whereas if you're in the, you know, machine room or something, it's going to sound totally different. You know, if you're in the janitor's closet or whatever. So we
built everything.
we built everything,
from
and
scratch.
it was really cool to do, but it was
it's
also
a challenge,
tiring.
and that's why it took a year, because you don't have a huge crew working on it.
There was really one guy doing all of it. I mean, he hired a few people here and there
Here
to do
and
a
there.
few things, but
But
basically he did all of it. And we sat there with him and picked things. I mean, it wasn't like, I mean, he picked some stuff, but a lot of times he'd be like, here's all this, here's what I got. What do you want? And we had to pick different animals for each plaguer, each creature, because when these plaguers are basically space zombies. They're like people that get infected with a alien virus, and they turn into these sort of demonic creatures. Okay. Well, when they turn into the demonic creatures, they're going to sound different too. And we picked, because each character turns into a plaguer, we were like, well, what animal do we want to marry to them? You know, so like one girl, we used a camel. One girl we used what was a
Panther.
I mean,
Brad did the voice for the main one.
I voiced one of the characters at the end, because there was one at the end that was like,
growling.
Oh, what this thing is? It doesn't fit an animal. We've used all our animals up. We have no animals left, you know. So I went in the booth, like the ADR booth, and I just growled, like I sort of like stuff I was doing when I was a kid to scare people or whatever. And that's the sound that's in the movie. So I ruined my throat that day doing it, but whatever.
Oh,
it's worth it.
I didn't have to talk to anybody.
Anything for the film.
Oh yeah, I it's cool when you watch a movie, like, you know, like all this stuff's going on. You're like, that's me growling on that. You know, nobody knows that. But it was yeah.
Although if you listen to the commentary,
you will
might
know.
find out.
You will know. But we had a lot of cool. That was a real cool experience, and it was definitely my most professional movie I've ever directed, and I definitely couldn't have done it without her producing it. Because there's no way it would have happened. It wouldn't have happened otherwise. And,
well, it's one of these things. It's fun, you know. Like, what did you do today at the office? Well, I growled.
I growled, right?
But it's in movie. It's what we love, because we do different things every day. It's not the same schedule every day. So that's why one of the many reasons why we love what we do.
Yeah, but that movie was a lot of fun, and I mean, and I'm glad, not to speed ahead, but like basically, you know, it came out in 2009, and we did play some festivals, and we even won some awards and had some very nice experiences. But the original distributor, Image Entertainment, who's a pretty big indie distributor, been around for a long time. they didn't really know how to handle the movie, and I don't think they really liked the movie. I don't know why they bought it.
They didn't know how to market
it.
We're kind of clashing with their marketing.
They wanted to pretend like it was some big studio movie that
they
people
didn't
had
want
missed.
to put like the laurels from the festivals we played at, on the back of the DVD. They're like, oh, we don't want to sell this as an indie movie. It's like, well, it is an indie movie. Like, let's not pretend it's a huge, studio movie, because it's not. Then we're going to disappoint people because we, sell them something that it's not. So that's kind of,
they just didn't. There's a lot of reasons for it, but they didn't know how to market it, and there were also things going on in the industry in terms of the business that were also not very good. It was after the
financial crisis.
Yeah, so as opposed to the one we're having now, and basically it just sort of disappeared. I mean, even though it was in Blockbuster and all that, it didn't get any TV sales over here. There was all kinds of things that didn't. There were more things almost that didn't happen than did, at least in the U.S. Foreign, it actually did pretty well, but in the U.S., not so much. And
I mean, it played even on HBO in Romania.
My
country,
not here.
Like everywhere in Eastern Europe was playing on HBO, but not
it
here.
Played on a lot of cable channels in the UK and other countries and Germany. And anyway, it was all over the place. So we'd hear from people in other countries that enjoyed it, but over here it was almost like.
I mean, it was on Netflix and Blockbuster, but look, we're kind of, by that point, we had that happened already. So we're hoping, for
especially with this movie.
Yeah.
So it was just nice. Long story short, it was just nice when we were able to do this 10th anniversary Blu-ray
in December last year.
Because Wild Eye was interested in doing it. And we were too, obviously, although we hadn't given it a lot of thought. We were thinking more about the film we were making, about High Fear probably than releasing an older movie. But, the more we talked about it, the more it made sense. It's like, this is a second chance for this movie, because I'll tell you something, with every film, you never know. Films have a very long life. Some movies disappear when they first come out and they get rediscovered 10 or 20 years later. Look, if some movies disappear and they never get found out again, or some movies are just big hits out of the gate and nobody can really explain any of it. With Plaguers, it was a chance, I thought, to give the movie a second life. And then what was really cool that kind of exceeded our expectations was, number one, the movie ended up getting into Walmart, which is one of the probably first films I've ever had in Walmart. And so that means basically it was everywhere. Like, it was available everywhere. And I was getting emails daily from people sending me pictures. I found the movie in Walmart. I bought the movie. Blah, blah, blah. That was so very cool. We saw it in our store in Burbank. And the other thing that happened, which is almost just as cool, was to read some of the reviews and people saying, this is such a cool retro 80s horror film. Why didn't I know about this before? Or why didn't I ever heard of this? And you know what? To me, that was like, that just kind of like made it all, that was just made it all worthwhile, or made it like a nice, like,
because other generations of fans discovered it that way.
Yeah, I think at the time was right for it.
People
I think the time was almost better for it in 2019
nowadays.
than it was in 2009, because everybody was still hung up back then on, let's say, Japanese horror remakes, Rob Zombie films, Eli Roth, whatever, throw whatever you want out there. I'm not bad-mouthing any of this stuff. I'm just saying that's what was out there. People were not thinking about retro projects to such a degree. Now, obviously, that's huge. It's been huge for a while now. I mean, it's ridiculous how big that is. So we were ahead of our time with Plaguers, essentially. And so it was nice to kind of see it have a second life.
People get it more now. For us, it was just more fun to like, okay, let's create an anniversary edition on Blu-ray. The movie wasn't released on Blu-ray in the United States.
Yeah, never had a Blu-ray release.
In other countries, yes, but not here. So we're like, okay, let's, give it another shot. But we weren't expecting such a nice reception.
But now it's on VHS
we're
too.
Happy, and we're still we're still going with the formats, but it was fun. And we also talked to a lot of people, journalists. We did some press in December, and it was nice to hear people's opinions. And some people knew about it, some people just seen it for the first time, and it was just nice to get some feedback.
We got a lot more feedback on it in 2019 than we did in 2009.
And we did more press.
Without a doubt.
Did more press. Like back then,
it was like pulling teeth to even get like Fangoria to do something about it, or, Rue Morgue. I mean, look, and I've had ups and downs with all these magazines and everything, nobody really was interested in covering it or reviewing it. And if they did review it, they might not be very nice about it. So it was, it's a feeling where you're just like, I spent a couple of years of my life on this, 2 years or 3 years of my life. Okay, great. Okay, we had some high points too. We got to go to Spain. We had our world premiere in Spain, and
We
won
met on Nashi.
yeah, I mean, we won best screenplay there and had a wonderful time. I don't want to complain about it.
Besides making the
but-
movie, which was still a nice experience.
Yeah, we got some in fact, talking about Bakersfield, like we, not that far, but we, you know, Modesto?
Mhm.
We did a festival in Modesto called Shocker Fest.
It's not around
And they're
anymore,
not around
but it
anymore.
was
But
serious for a few
they were
years.
great, and they had like a 12 screen, you know, movie theater that they would take out like 2 or 3 screens for the weekend and do, you know, through like a long weekend. And our movie
was the
played
opening
an
night
opening night
weekend.
movie. So, you know, and we got a few awards there too. So these were the high points, like kind of right after the movie was finished, like in 2008. But then the following year, when it got to be about Image Entertainment, dealing with them and their release, which was a poor excuse for a release, in my opinion, that was, and then the fact that nobody was really covering the film, almost ignoring it or lumping it in with like, oh, this is just another sci-fi channel movie. Well, no, it's not, because I've seen those films. I know how they are. And back then they were maybe a little bit different than they are now, but they're still, those are really product, and those are, it's not the same thing. So they're not trying to be retro. They were just stuff that was actually supposed to be very contemporary,
Yeah.
that was disposable. They, you know, so that was annoying to get lumped in with that, and then you just got shoved off to the side. But whatever, that kind of stuff happens in the business. You do enough movies, it'll happen. But it was just really, really cool to see what happened late last year with Plaguers. It was such a cool, like just uplifting, you know, kind of an experience that you need too in this business, because you get a lot of, you know, negative
Rejections,
things.
negative thing.
Right.
Even us,
So-
I mean, people think, oh, just because you make movies, that means you can do everything. It's like, oh, we get rejections too. It's not like
Yeah.
we want
We're
to
still
do.
starters. I mean, we don't, you know, in like with High 8, I mean, we didn't, we just had a period where it was like, you know, a lot of pitch meetings and a lot of development and stuff like that wasn't going anywhere. And
We
I
got
was like,
tired
you
of
know
it.
what? I think we just need to go shoot something. Like we kind of coming back to the beginning of our
Yeah.
conversation with High 8. It was literally like, let's just go shoot. And I did shoot it. I was my own DP for the first time since like, you know, I don't know, 1995 or something, you know, but you know what? It was really fun. And I felt like I didn't have to like, it was like, it took less time to do things because of that. Now look, I've worked with DPs since then. I actually had a great DP on our last film, but you know, it was kind of like it was the nature of the project to do things lower tech and kind of
Less people, less screw around.
Yeah.
Just-
yeah. So that's kind of, you know, a lot of times I've said this before, a lot of times the movie you're making is kind of a response to the last one, to the experience you had making it. What that means to me is that I usually try to do something different. But it can also mean that you're trying to not make the same mistakes, because you always make mistakes no matter how many movies you made.
Mhm. You always learn.
You always learn something new. You always work with different people. You know, you have to kind of, you know, and sometimes you have great, like I said, like we had this DP on this last film, this Italian guy, Salvatore, who I mean, I never worked with him before, never met him till we, you know, basically hired him on this and, you know, interviewed him. It was like I've been working with him for 20 years. I mean, it was like, so that's how it usually is. It's usually really difficult and rough and never gets better, or it's like really smooth from the beginning. That's usually how
kind of suspicious, like what's gonna happen.
Yeah,
It's
no, not at
too
all.
well.
It's funny because like the only time we ever had things that would like there was confusion was more of a like an English thing, and not, you know, not because he doesn't speak English, but just because he is, you know, an Italian guy. And he would, you know, there'd be a couple of times where like the camera was over here where it really needed to be over there. And it was like, okay, well, let's just move it then. What's the big deal, you know? But like he had a great instinctive sense of where to put the camera and how to capture, and great use of light too. And also really great use of doing both outdoor and indoor, which is something because a lot of DPs tend to be either better at one or the other. Some people are really, really good at like catching things on the fly outdoors, like in natural light and kind of working with like that, or they're really good with interior lighting, usually one or the other. But if somebody can do both, that's great. That's really something. And we really needed that.
Personality wise.
Great personality.
Nice, fun.
Yeah. So,
you know, sometimes you get some, not so much.
and we were all living together in a house.
Because we rented
Wow.
Cast and crew were all living in the
We're
location.
shooting in this cabin. Not a cabin, it was more like a house with a few bedrooms and all that, but we all had to live there and shoot there. So we're like,
Oh.
we really need people with cool personalities, or as many
Yeah.
people with cool personalities as possible, because it's going to be a bit difficult and rough, and we don't need prima donnas and divas here,
Yeah.
Exactly.
It was a lot of people
or at
rooming
least
together.
one, or one we can put up with, but not 6 or
Yeah.
7.
Yeah, that was one of the big challenges of that. Was it was a location shoot, because this type of film just couldn't be done in LA, economically speaking. It wasn't feasible to do it, and plus we needed vast woods that you feel like you could get lost in.
We shot in Fraser Park. If
Fraser Park, which
you
is
probably know where that
it's
is.
up near like
Yeah.
it's up to 5. It's up to and
That's where we go play in the snow in between here
the
in
snow,
LA.
exactly.
That's
yeah.
why we're trying to shoot fast last year, because
The snow was coming.
the snow is coming. There's sometimes in October. You never know. So because we shot there before, and the weather can get really bad starting mid-October.
Mhm.
So that's why I'm like, we really need to shoot this by the end of September. And I'm glad we did, even if it was kind of a lot of work for us to do and do the prep and all that. And now I'm glad, because now you surely can't shoot anything with a bunch of people in a house.
The intimacy level of that, I mean, because people were rooming, we had everybody had to share a room with somebody, really. It was no other way to do it. And, some people were more on board with that than others, but, everybody did it and got through it. And we told them up front anyway. It wasn't like we sprung it on them. But anyway, some people, it doesn't matter what you tell them up front. But it was overall pretty pleasant, pretty nice. It was fun. I think everybody had fun. I don't think I would have wanted to shoot more days like that, like day after day. But it was for the time frame we were shooting in, it worked. And sometimes you just have to put the movie first, the story you're telling and the atmosphere you're trying to get. That really has to be the number one thing. I mean, of course you have financial limitations, but if you're creative, you can probably get the atmosphere you want, more or less, and you can do it for the money that you got. So that was that, but that was an adventure. We knew that would be an adventure because it was the first location shoot we'd done in a while. Like that, especially for a micro budget thing. But you know what? Once again, something different.
That's what
it's not boring.
We needed for this.
Right?
Yeah.
Man, you guys sound like you have a lot of adventures. You guys got a lot of cool stories, and they're not even the ones that you shoot. They're just what's happening while you're doing all of this.
That's usually how it is. I mean,
I love it.
I mean, what's funny is some movies, they have less anecdotes than others, though. I mean, for example, Plaguers, people always ask me stuff like, oh, what happened on that one? And I'm like, nothing really happened on that one. I mean, I'm glad nothing happened because we were there for 3 weeks and we just filmed every day's material every day. Okay. And I mean, nobody got hurt. Nobody got a blowout. Nobody quit. Nobody, we're in a stage situation. So that kind of
it was more comfortable.
Things.
Yeah.
But and I'm glad nothing like that happened.
You have no river going through it,
No. I mean, but that was just
luckily it was uneventful because I was concerned because we had a lot of stunts and a lot of people wearing makeup and contact lenses that they can't see through and crazy things like that. I'm like, I hope nobody is gonna get hurt, and we're really careful and all that, but still you never know. So luckily I was happy that nobody got hurt and it was smooth and well
there was just a lot of material to shoot, a lot of action, a lot of action, a lot of people. I told all the actors, because the movie's a crew, there's a crew of a ship that are flying through, they're flying to Earth, and they pick up these girls who they think are refugees, and they turn out to be pirates, space pirates. And so then you've got crew versus the pirates, and in the middle of that, this alien energy source gets ruptured and blows up, and it essentially starts infecting people. So then every single character becomes a plaguer. Every single character becomes a demon. All of them, almost all of them. And so what I told people, and they don't just die, they don't just become plaguers and disappear. They keep coming back and they change.
And they change.
Physically.
We had makeup, different stages for different plaguers. So it was really hard to keep track of that. I mean, we had literally tables in the makeup room for the assistant directors, for the makeup crew, for me, for everybody to keep track of that. What, plaguer, what stage you're at now. I mean, it was complicated.
I was trying to think of something.
It's one of those the effects people came up with that and we're that's a cool idea, but I know you are not gonna keep track of that, so I have to pick up the slack and the the assistant team and kind of do that.
I think I came up with. I think it was in the script, and they probably took the ball. And
Well,
ran with
they
it,
do, but I know how they're just
they embrace
creative,
they
but then
embrace
they
the
don't want to
idea.
deal with it.
They embraced the idea of doing it, but it was what I was trying to do. I thought would be interesting because if you see like if you tell me if you say, well, I got space zombies, it's like, okay, they're zombies. Well, they come back and that's how they look. That you're going to see them looking like that, and that's it. They're not going to change. They're just going to be the living dead, and they're not going to change. Well, that's fine, but like I thought that would get boring after a while, and I felt like because this isn't just the living dead, we can do whatever we want with it. We don't know.
Create your own rules.
This alien life source, this alien energy source could do anything to anybody. So why not? How about it gets weirder and weirder? With certain of them, not all of them, but some of them especially make it to the end. Let's just go wild. So like by the end of the film, some of these people were in full creature suits, like completely. And I'll tell you something. We had like a sculptor on this who worked on The Thing, like the John Carpenter's The Thing. Like the last creature you see in the movie that I did the voice for, that was sculpted by this guy, Jim Cagle. He had done The Thing, all these major films, Killer Clowns from Outer Space, all these movies. It was such an honor to have him on the film. And so we had a couple of creature suits at the end for the ones that really make it to the end that are really like just totally like they're not remotely human, We
had to cast more like friends in those parts because it's not so
That's
much
what we do to our
acting.
friends. You're going to play, you're going to be in a suit and you won't be able to see what's going on or hear me, but hey, it's going to be fun, and you're going to be covered in slime too, by the way. Did I mention the slime?
See you for drinks on Tuesday, though.
That's right. I mean, like we had one guy that was like, had been in one of our, and he was in Mutation, and we had him play a part that was basically in a coffin, like he's a dead guy who gets transformed. He gets reanimated and then he gets transformed. And so he was laying in that coffin all day and we're filming stuff around it. And at some point we remember to say, hey, Dave, and he was asleep. It's boring. It's comfortable. It's boring. I mean, there's nothing going on. And it's funny because we might have even filmed stuff with him while he was asleep. Because he was supposed to be dead and eyes closed, so he was basically the best performance ever. I mean, really. I mean, it was, but
that was so funny.
So we had fun. Yeah, it was fun. And it was fun to play with all the effects and have more money and resources for that type of stuff. Because the effects guys I had on that, I'd done other films with, previously, but they were smaller movies and we were still stretching the budget. But this one we felt like we could actually like really have fun with, like, and if we, deliver on the stuff that was written in the script as opposed to changing it or cutting it at the last minute. That was the last thing I wanted to do with this movie is cut. I don't like to do that in general. Is cut an effect, cut a gore scene, cut a kill. I didn't want to cut anything out of this. We didn't cut anything out of it. We just tried to deliver like a fun 80s kind of style horror sci-fi movie in space. It's all in space because, it used to be like those kind of films. A lot of times they were all in space, but then like the budget started getting lower and then, got whatever. After a while, it was like Alien comes to Earth. Like you see the alien for the first 5 minutes in space, but then the rest of the movie is on Earth in some town, some like, middle of nowhere town. And you're like, it's just not the same thing. It doesn't have it's not the full atmosphere that you want from a movie like that. Right. So yeah.
Well, it sounds like fun. Do you guys want to, we're past an hour now. Do you guys want to tell everybody where they can find these movies that you have? I have them in the description below, but I would like you guys to tell them as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, Plaguers, I'll start with Plaguers. I mean, it's pretty much everywhere you watch movies. I mean, it's streaming on, Amazon Instant Video. It's on a ton of other platforms, Fandango and Xbox and Google Play and all this stuff. Pretty much anywhere you can think of. It's on Tubi also.
Okay.
Yeah, it's on there. And then of course, you can buy the DVD and Blu-ray from Amazon.
And VHS.
And not the VHS from Amazon, but you can get those. And High 8 and High Death are also on Amazon, for sale.
And all the streaming platforms.
I mean, Wild Eye, our distributor Wild Eye does a real good job of getting the movies out there and really getting them in front of people.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, they're all available there, and then we have, and also if you're really interested in like a signed copy or something like that,
you can contact us directly.
You can contact us. We have some copies here too,
either through social media or
so that's pretty much where you can find those. which is pretty much everywhere, thankfully. We don't take it for granted, but yeah,
No.
they're out there.
Man, you guys are keeping up with more stuff than I am. I'm like, ah.
We're just like, I don't know, I just like live and breathe movies and like, you know, old movies and new. I mean, I need to catch up still with some newer things. I keep up with enough of it, you know, but like, you know,
It's always
there's always something else to
something
see. And I
interesting
still
to
like to
see.
see what's going on in the indie scene and everything. I have a lot of friends who, you know, making films there. And then there's films, I don't know the people who made them, but I want to see them. I'm interested in
Yeah.
seeing them because
they look interesting.
they look
to us,
interesting or heard good
different.
things or
Mhm.
whatever, you know? So,
We're not just making movies. We love to watch movies. That's what keeps us going. Sometimes you have a tough day, you know, and you're like, why am I doing this? Because it's not easy. And it's not everyday fun. Sometimes it is fun, but sometimes it's not. And sometimes, you know, you watch a movie at night, you're like, and you love it. And you're like, well, that's why I make what I make, because I love this.
it's what you're striving for.
Yeah.
You know, you have your you know, like role model films or filmmakers or whatever, and why revisit one of those
And
movies,
just-
or even see something new that you didn't know, and you're like, damn, that was
That
impressive.
gives you energy to continue
Yeah.
what you do. So
Yeah.
next day you won't be jaded or
Yeah.
upset or annoyed. You'll be like, you know, okay, that's cool. Let's start afresh
Yeah.
again. So
Yeah,
that's why we
There you go.
love watching movies too.
There you go. Oh, well, like I said, all of the links, except for the Tubi, because I didn't know it was on Tubi as well, but all of the links that you guys sent me to all your social medias, to your website at nightfallpics.com.
Mhm.
The links for the movies, they're all in the description. It's either above or below us. I'm not sure. I don't know. But it's there, I promise.
I saw it. Yeah.
Okay. It's there, I promise.
Yeah, and people can look at our social media and find out more. You
Yeah,
know?
if you go to
Yeah.
Nightfall Pictures, you know, we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, you know,
Yeah,
you can go there, and we update that stuff pretty often, and you know, all kinds of things
Especially nowadays.
about our movies and other creative things that we do too. You know, other, you know, like writing, we do like, you know, like different writing things, different articles, magazines, books, things like that.
Or promote
just-
other friends' movies.
Yeah.
So, you know, yeah.
We got different. We kind of give it a variety. You know.
Okay.
So.
Well, I appreciate you guys spending the time with me tonight and sharing your movies and your great stories. Man, you guys got some really good stories. Like,
This
I
is-
actually would just like to just sit down and just listen to
Well, we
just
have-
your stories.
This
We
is the
have
tip of the
more.
iceberg.
I know, it's one of those days where it would have to be a coffee day. Like, you're just
Yeah.
sitting there and just like, you're just listening like, really?
Yeah.
Really?
I know people tell me I should write a book, but you know, I feel like I need to be way older before I do that. You know, I still want to get.
At least get started on it.
We got to get a few more stories
movies,
to add to the
yeah.
group, add to the pile, you know, and then if I can remember them by then you know, then I'll write something.
I'm sure there'll be some kind of technology by then that can extract memories out of your brain.
I
or
might very well
something.
need that, you know. I'll probably end up needing something like that.
Because you
Either
lose
that or
memories under memories, like socks and clothes and stuff.
She's got a
Like,
better
what is it?
memory. She's got a better memory than I do. She remembers things about my films that I don't remember.
Yeah.
Like stuff that I directed before we started working together. Like she would come down to the set for a day or two, or she would, you know, meet some of these people in passing. She remembers everything. Like
So watch out with me.
Yeah,
what you
yeah.
say and over me, basically.
sometimes to a damaging the level. You know, you're like, oh well, I wish I hadn't. You know, I don't want to.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
heard that again, but yeah, she remembers. So yeah.
Oh, I love it. Well, I'll have to have you guys on again sometime. I would love to have you guys on again sometime, actually, if you guys would be interested in coming on again for another flick
Sure.
that you guys have.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah,
We're in town this year, you know.
yeah.
We're not going anywhere, so
Yeah,
we're still
yeah.
working on things. So
Oh,
we're-
before I forget this, I will say this because this is probably the only things I didn't show before was High 8. We're talking about High 8. This
yeah.
is the
Ooh.
raw. Yeah, see the hand coming out of there with the
The
tape.
tape.
This is like this just came out this year. A re-release in the Wild Eyes Raw and Extreme release, and this is actually in the original aspect ratio, which for some people that matters a lot. Which means that it's like 4:3. It's not 16:9. So it's like VHS era, you know, aspect ratio, more of a boxy kind of old TV style versus, you know, flat
Yeah.
screens of today.
The first DVD did so well, it sold out. So
It's sold out, and so
we
we're
did
Rob,
a re-release. It came out in April this year. So
Yeah.
As you can tell, a lot going on even during this.
So that's a cool way for people to see the movie. If you haven't seen it all, that's probably the best way to see it.
That's new out there, so on Amazon, easy to find.
Yeah. So I figured I'd throw that out there since I picked up all the other media I have sitting here around, So yeah.
Absolutely. I definitely have Plaguers on my list for this weekend.
Check it out, and then we can all reconvene after that then, because you'll probably have more questions after that. It's got a pretty elaborate making of on it that's pretty comprehensive.
And it's a lot of just the movie is just about, a lot of cool female characters. We all were very about
there's a lot of
strong female characters in all of our movies. That's what, before I met Brad, he's all about strong female characters. So in his movies, in our movies, the females are far from being victims. So they're kicking butt over there.
You'll see
fun and
plenty
cool
of butt
and feisty, and hope you'll enjoy it.
Yeah.
I'll definitely let you know, and I'm sure it looks good. So, like I said, I definitely have it on my list for this weekend. I'm gonna eat me some tacos, and I'm gonna sit and watch it. Get the tacos. Well, thank you guys for coming on again. I appreciate it so much, and thank you guys for following along with it. I am going to get with these guys right now, meaning you who are watching, because you guys are waiting for that final giveaway for my random movies, so that I just picked up in the store. So yeah, thank you guys for coming on tonight and being my guests. I'm gonna go ahead and let you guys go, and I'm gonna get with these guys for their next deal that they've got to do. So
thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us. Yeah, let's do it again.
Thank you so much. All right. Thank you guys, and have a great evening.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, guys. Thank you guys for hanging out to the end, so you get to the extra bonus features, which is the very last giveaway for my random ass stuff pack, movie pack, where you get some movies, you get some popcorns and candy, some autographed photos, whatever I throw in there is what you get. But for this last one, I decided I'm going to give away the last 2 movies together. And so if you want to win all of that, movies, popcorn, candy, photos, this and that, this is what you have to do. I want you guys to share this video and tag in it. Either tag myself or Any Last Words in it. Once you have tagged and shared it, you guys need to take a screenshot and send it to me. Does that sound complicated? It sounded better in my head. So tag me or Any Last Words in this video and share it. Screenshot it, send it back, winner. All right, guys. So also real quick, I'm going to be sharing that music video that I had tonight from Pinetree Janitorial Services. It's a really cool, trippy little video. I think you guys might like it. So yeah, thank you guys for joining. I will see you guys on Wednesday night, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch live. Thank you guys so much. I'll see you guys on Wednesday.